Okay, let's get started. I think we're gonna have more people joining, but since it's 12 o'clock, we're gonna get started. Last time we asked the last 10 students from the list to introduce yourself, and I think we're done with the roster, but we have missed some of you. If you haven't introduced yourself so far, please, this is your last opportunity. Just turn on your video and then tell us your name, your major, where you're from, jobs you're doing, a future career, that kind of thing. Again, this is the last opportunity if you want to do self-introduction.
I can introduce myself.
Sure, go ahead.
My name is Justin Sabata, and I'm an informatics major with a concentration in media studies. I'm from Garden City originally in Southwest Kansas, and I've been working with Tiger Media Network for a while now, and I plan to keep working in media, but I'm just not sure where.
So what kind of jobs you are doing? Are you doing a broadcaster?
I do both radio and print, so those are kind of the two that I'm best at. I have kind of the face for radio.
So is that something you enjoy and you would like to do it in the future as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Any type of reports you are interested in? Are you interested in news, sports, or anything else?
Yeah, I think hard-hitting news and sports are what interests me the most.
Good.
Mostly.
Yeah. And also, with a lot of platforms, there are a lot of podcasts, right? You can start your own program. YouTube, of course, if you want to do video, but podcasts in general. Find something that interests you and then develop programs. Yeah.
For sure.
Good. Other people? Do we have other people to introduce?
I can go.
Sandra, you go ahead, and then Gretchen.
Okay, sounds good. My name is Sandra. I'm a wildlife biology major, and I'm from Hays, Kansas. And I'm currently working as a bartender at Trio Tap House.
Okay. Do you intend to do something with your degree? You're getting animal science, wildlife?
Yeah, I got a job for the summer over at Melbourne Lake as a park ranger, so I'm looking forward to that. And then once I graduate, I'm hoping to eventually move to Oregon and see what I can find there.
They probably have a lot of like national parks, that kind of thing there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Why move into Oregon? Is that do you have family there?
No, I don't know anybody there, but I just feel like it's a beautiful state. So just in that general area.
Yeah, that's definitely, close to ocean, and there are mountains there, right? Plenty of stuff to do there.
Yeah.
I don't know about a winter, probably not too bad.
I'm not too sure about the winters there.
Okay, you'll find out.
Yeah, exactly. Can't be much worse than Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, with the ocean there, it seems like their winter is not too bad compared to the East Coast. I mean, if you are in New York or even north to that, it will be really cold in the East Coast.
Right. Yeah, it gets pretty bad.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Gretchen?
All right. My name is Gretchen. I'm a tourism and hospitality major, and I also run track and field and cross country here. And I'm from Arizona, and I want to be a cruise director after college.
Okay. So when you run cross country, like for competition?
Yeah.
Okay. So how far do people usually run when they do competition?
Like a race?
Yeah, how long the
Um,
race is?
it's like a 6K, so it's like almost 4 miles.
4 miles. Okay, that's that's
Yeah.
too long for me. 1 mile probably. So you're from Arizona?
Yeah.
Is it pretty hot over there in the summer?
Oh my gosh, yes, it hits like 120. It's
Okay.
insane.
How about winter?
Winter, it's really nice. It's like 50s, 60s.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Not at
It's
all.
probably just the summer, right?
Mhm.
So, is there a lot of a desert there?
Yeah, I live in the desert part, so we don't get any snow or anything. It's just pure dry heat.
Okay. So, like in the summer or some season, do the government or cities try to limit the water use?
Yeah, sometimes. I don't think we've had too bad of like droughts or anything like that.
Very interesting. Yeah, just the United States is just so big with a lot of diverse geography. It's very interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, so anybody else from our class? Again, this is the last opportunity for you to do the self-introduction. Okay, so
Yeah, I can go real quick.
go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Nathan. I'm a cybersecurity major, and I'm from Kansas City.
Okay, do you currently have a job?
Yeah, I work as a community assistant for Fort Hayes, so here on campus.
Okay, so what kind of things do you do with that job?
Basically, like I'm here to help the residents, assist them in any way possible, kind of almost like a keep them safe kind of way, be the guide to other resources, that kind of deal.
Okay, so what do you want to do in the future?
I've been looking at working for like bigger companies in Kansas City, so I was looking at Cerner. They're healthcare based informatics, so I was looking into that.
Okay, so are you from the Missouri side or Kansas side?
I'm from the Kansas side. Yeah.
Okay, so you're paying less in your tuition.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That's
about a 4.5 hour drive from Hayes. So
okay. That's good. Yeah, I think the Kansas side is pretty nice. With all the new development. I mean, there are a lot of stuff to do in Missouri side, but as far as living in Kansas side, it's pretty good.
it can get pretty rough over there. Yeah, depending what part you're in. But downtown
Very,
Casey, there's a lot of stuff to do down there. So
yeah, good. Yeah, thanks.
yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
I can go real quick.
Sure.
My name's Paulina, and I'm currently majoring in criminal justice with a minor in biology. I work at a nursing home in Great Bend, Kansas, as a medication aide.
So, why do you want to minor in biology? Is this something you want to do in the future? I mean,
Well, I originally started as a pre-med, and I switched majors. I switched to criminal justice, so I already had my minor in biology. So
okay.
it's just something that I use.
Yeah. So, with the criminal justice degree, what do you want to do in the future?
I think I want to do something with immigration and customs.
Okay. So, is that something that most opportunities you can find it along the border or anywhere else?
Yeah, that's mostly along the border. I
Okay.
want to work with victims of immigration and customs, so I would have to move somewhere closer to a border.
So yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, along the border, there are a lot of opportunities there, and also very diverse. Probably, um, you know, just in terms of things to do there. restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a, I have a people, from college. They work in universities near the border. It's just very interesting thing to, there are a lot of interesting things to do there. Seems
Yeah,
like-
I'm originally from Texas, right by the border, so I would just be moving back home, honestly.
Do you still have family in Texas?
Yes, yeah, I do.
So were they affected by the storm?
Um, by the storm? No, they live by El Paso, so there wasn't the
Okay,
storm wasn't that bad
the
over
other
there.
side. Okay, yeah, good. It's just, crazy to see how Texas was affected by the storm and then by the power outage, those things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna wrap up the self-introduction. Thank you thank you all for your self-introduction. Helped me understand, uh, what kind of students we have in this class, your backgrounds, those information. I think that's very useful, and also help your classmates, get to know each other a little bit more. So in the future, we're going to do, small group activities, just things that will help you to know a little bit more about other people. But as far as the self-introduction, that's it. Let's take a look at it this week. What do we have? Let me see the Blackboard. So you are looking at a Blackboard. We had 2 assignments due last week. IR number 2 and a virtual mock interviews takeaways. And for this week, we have case study number 2. I'm still working on case study number 1, but I'm almost done. So some of you, most of you probably have your assignment graded as already. So I'm trying to finish everything tomorrow, case study number 1 tomorrow, so that you can have some feedback. But in general, just pay attention to formatting, because we ask you to write everything in APA. That means you should have APA headers, you should have page number, you should have title, your name, and you should double space, no extra space, cite both sources within your paper, and also list both sources as your references. If you are not doing any of those, you're losing some points, but those are the things they can be easily corrected. The second thing is you should answer all the questions, all 3 prompts, but within each prompt, sometimes there are multiple questions. You cannot just answer the first question and ignore the rest, right? And your responses should be based on our chapters, right? For example, last time when you were asked to describe the climate of the organization, some of you didn't describe what's going on and the perception of the people, but you did not use any term from the book, right? So our book clearly stated there were 3 climate control types, including open communication, dehumanizing, and happiness for lunch bunch. Those 3 types, you needed to use one of those. Say, I believe the organization has open climate or open communication, open climate, because according to the book, this is the definition for open climate, and then use the examples from the case study to match or to connect those 2. So if you are not doing this, you're going to lose some points. So those are the 2 kind of a general feedback I can give to every one of you. So for case study number 2, you're gonna have a new story. So let me show you. You go to assignments, go to case study number 2. Then you have the story here. The story itself is really short. It's about 2 pages. So you have this conflict around a performance review. This story is about 2 people. The first person is called Pat, the other person is called Chris. So Pat hired Chris, right? Directly out of college. So Pat saw something in Chris when Chris was hired. But after Chris was hired, some of Chris's behaviors caused Pat to worry about him or her. We don't know about Chris' gender here. So when it's time for Chris's performance review, Chris tried to avoid this as much as possible, avoid communication with Pat, and even went behind Pat's back and talk something bad about Pat. So this is the story. It's a very short story. So for your questions, you're going to analyze both characters. So you're going to see there are some instructions here. Then there are citation guidelines. Okay. Let me show you the instructions. Okay, so you are looking at the directions or in directions right now. So for your final submission, please do not include the directions, but do include prompts and questions. Okay, so if you want to, make your own version of those questions, you can do that. If you feel like this is too long to include in your paper, you want to make it shorter, I'm fine with that. If you want to condense that into some kind of a title, subtitle, that's fine. But the easiest thing for you to do is just copy those 3 prompts into your document, right? Your Word document. Make sure you have header, page number, title, your name, then double space everything. So chapter 6, we talk about it. There are 4 communication styles based on people's responsiveness and assertiveness. So those 4 styles, and you need to find communication style for Pat and Chris, right? Both of them. And when you say, Pat is analytical, you need first you need to explain what an analytical style is according to our book, right? Then you need to find some matching information from the case. Try to argue that Pat's behaviors fit into this description. Then do Chris. This is 9 points. The second one is 5 different personalities. You don't need to explain all 5 personalities. You just need to explain the ones you are using, right? If you see Pat is authoritarian, then explain that and cite some examples from the case study. Then discuss about Chris's style, personality. The last one, we're going to talk about it today, chapter 8, dimensions for social credibility. So basically, you need to analyze both the characters as far as their credibility. So when you talk about a social credibility, there are 3 dimensions. So one's expertise or competence, one's character or trustworthiness, and one's goodwill or caring. So you can see this person has credibility in this area, but not much in the other 2 areas. That's fine, because not everyone has credibility or is doing well in all 3 dimensions, right? So you need to explain those things and then analyze both characters. Any questions so far? If you don't have questions, in the same folder, the third item, there's citation guidelines. If you didn't cite things well, you didn't include references, that document can help you. We're gonna move on to our chapter. So since you don't have a question about assignment, this chapter is about perceptions, social credibility, perceptions. Perceptions are very subjective, right? Perceptions of people in organizations. Perceptions are extremely important. Just think about it. When you go for a job interview, the whole process is basically forming perceptions of each other, right? And the people who are interviewing you, basically, they will make the decision based on their perceptions of your performance at the interview, right? The whole package, including your resume, how you respond, some questions, all those things will form their perceptions, and in the end, their perceptions will decide whether you get an offer or not. Then once you enter the organization, people will continue to form and alter or change their perceptions of you, right? Based on your job performance, based on your interaction with them. It's just like the case study. Chris was hired because Chris did really well in at the job interview, and then left good perceptions or impressions on those people. But after Chris was hired, right, the perception, at least in Pat, as far as Pat's perception goes, the perception changed, right? Because Chris started doing something different, right? So that's why it's important to have those things. As far as perception process, because when we form perceptions, actually there are 3 steps you need to follow, right? When we walk into any new environment, there are so many things going on. There are so many stimuli going on, right? Colors, movement, people, talking, right? So the first stage for people to form their perception of the environment or people is to select information, right? To select information to focus that attention on, right? Just like that, those 2 pictures, right? So imagine that you walk into this store. Those are the 2 pictures of the same store, right? If you are there to shop, right, you have a particular piece of clothing you wanted to buy, right? You want to find a dress or top, and then you basically pay attention to the clothes. But if you are just there with someone, you are not the one who is shopping, right? And you are extremely tired from walking around, right? And you are not buying anything. You probably will pay attention to the chairs or stools that you can rest on, right? You can find and then rest. So you pay attention to different things, right? So usually we'll pay attention to strange things. If there's something strange happening, we'll pay attention to that. Or if there is something that is, repetitive, right? If you notice a person who been wearing the same shirt for 3 days in a row, you're gonna pay attention to that, right? So something that is not normal, repetitive. So that's the first stage. You select information, select stimuli to focus on. The second stage is try to organize what you are receiving. So all those information coming to your through your eyes, other senses, and then to your brain, and you are trying processing those information, and you try to understand what is going on. So you try to organize the information into an understandable pattern. Those patterns, they are based on your knowledge, your understanding of the world, and so that you can organize them and then understand them, and then process them. So I want you to pay attention to this picture image, and look at what things you can organize into a recognized pattern, right? What do you see in the image? Right? So I'll give you a few seconds, and then I will give you, I will launch a poll and see if you seeing something as other people are seeing. So here's the poll, and then tell me, what are you seeing in the image? Okay, so far it seems like the majority of you are seeing the young lady in the image. Okay, if you haven't responded, please do that. Just take a look at the image and then tell us, what are you seeing. Okay, so far I have close to 80% of you responded. So far the young lady is winning. So we have 60% seeing a young lady, and then we have 12% seeing an old lady, and then we have a 27% seeing both, right? So since most of you are seeing a young lady, let me start with that. So if you are seeing young lady, this young lady is looking away from you, so you don't really see her face that clearly. You see her, this is her eye, this is her hair, and this is her eyelash, probably nose, little bit nose. You don't really see her mouth because she's looking away. This is her chin, and this is a kind of her necklace, that kind of thing. So her neck, and a little bit of her chest, her ear right here. So if you are seeing old lady, then her face is much larger, then she's not looking away from you. So this is one of her eyes. This is the other eye. This is her big nose, right? Quite a big nose right here. And this is her mouth. This is her chin, kind of stick out a little bit. Okay, she's kind of looking down as far as her eyes. So hopefully now you are seeing both, right? So it's very interesting because there are a lot of illusion images on the internet that you can see. So usually they have several things hidden in the same image, right? So even though we are seeing the same patterns, we are seeing the same lines, shades, right? We can organize those things into two completely different patterns based on our knowledge, right? So we have some kind of perception of a young lady, we have some kind of perception of an old lady. That's how we can fit in those those information or stimuli into those patterns, right? So everything is based on the the prior knowledge of those things or those people. So let me share results with you. So those are the results I got from the poll. Okay, for the next step, it's a little bit interesting. We have 44 students in this class, okay? So it's much easier to do it in class. So it's quite challenging to do it online via Zoom. So, but I'm gonna try to do it. So for the next step, called interpretation. So now basically you attach meaning to what you received, what you organized. So you attach meaning. So this is good, bad. Do I like it? All those personal perceptions or meanings to those things you received, right? We're gonna divide our class into 2 groups. Then I'm gonna ask group 1 to see the next slide, and they're gonna have a vote. Then I'm gonna ask group 2 to see the next slide, so it's different slide, and then they're gonna have a vote based on the options they have. So a little bit tricky to do this, but I will try to ask half of the class to go away for a little bit. So I'm gonna try to do a breakout room. Okay, so if you can listen carefully, those are the directions. So we're gonna have 2 breakout rooms, and please do not join right away. So let me create those 2 rooms, and then so what we are doing is I'm gonna ask room 1 students. So if you are in room 1, you are going to stay here. Okay, you do not join your room. If you are in room 2, then you can join your breakout room, then stay there for a while. If you want to chat with each other, do that. If you want to, just look at your phone for a couple minutes, do that. Then I will ask you to come back, right? Once those students, they are done with that slide, then we're gonna switch, okay? So again, room 1 student do not join, okay? Stay here. Room 2 students, you can join, okay? I'm gonna open up all rooms, but only room 2 students will go to that room. Okay, so if you are room 2, please join. Room 1, do not join, okay? Stay here. Okay, I think we have enough people who left the main room. I'm going to show you the slide. And I will ask you to, just a minute. Okay, so let me show you the slide. There is a problem. There's a problem. There are 2 options. Then read the problem and then pick one option. You can only pick one option. You cannot pick both, okay? So let me share screen with you. So you're looking at the second stage, then this is the problem. So read the problem and then pick a program. Are you done with the reading? Okay, so let me launch the polls so you can select. Let me do it really quickly. Okay, so let me see. Please pick one program, A or B. Anybody else? Okay, so I think we have had enough. So now room 1 students, please go to your room. Room 1 students, please go to your room, and then I'm gonna ask room 2 to come back. Okay, so room 2 students, you can go back to the main room. I'm gonna show you the problem. Okay, so you can go back. So I'm assuming that most of you are from room 2. I'm gonna show you the problem, and then you can read and then pick a program to solve the problem. Okay, let me show you the problem. Okay, you should be looking at this problem. I'll give you a few minutes to read and then think about it. Okay, I'm assuming that most of you are down. Let me launch a poll. Don't do that the previous poll because that's a different one. So if you see that one, please ignore. Ignore that. I'm gonna ask you a new one. So let me see, how can I, just give me a minute. I know everything is a little bit awkward with Zoom. Okay, so I'm gonna launch a new poll. So there are two options, C or D, okay? And you are looking at C or D, okay? Just a little bit more time. We're almost done. Okay, if you haven't voted, please do so. Okay, so I'm gonna ask everybody come back. That took us a while to get through. We're waiting for people to come back. Okay, let me explain now. As I mentioned, this is the last stage, stage 3. So basically, you're looking at a problem and then try to process that and then try to attach meaning to the the solutions, right? So ask you to just a minute, sorry. So I asked you to kind of pick one program out of 2. So this is the slide I showed to group 1. So as you can see now, it's the same problem. I didn't came up with this problem. I mean, so it's kind of a coincidence we have the unusual Asian disease going on right now, right? So this was from a book probably 20 years ago. The authors who is a psychologist who did this experiment and wrote a book about this special process of our brain is engaging, and he actually won Nobel Prize for proposing a concept based on this experiment and other experiments as well. So I didn't come up with this scenario. So as you can see, you have the same problem and you have a little bit of 2 different programs. So this is the 2 programs I showed to group 1. So you have, if A is adopted, 200 people will be saved. So most people from group 1 picked this option, right? If program A is adopted, 200 people will be saved, right? Then I showed this slide to group 2. As you already know, it's the same problem. And then there are 2 options. Program C is adopted, 400 people will die. if program D is adopted, there's 1/3 probability that nobody will die, 2/3 probability that 600 people, all people will die. If you go back, it's the same consequences or same results. It's the wording or it's worded differently, but it's the same consequences, same results. So when I showed this to the second group, we do have a slight more people who choosing program C, a little bit more than program D, right? This is not really what I expected, because I did this thing with all the classes I have taught in the past. Majority of people, the majority of classes, when I showed this slide, more people chose program D, okay? And when I showed this to those classes, more people chose program A, right? Even though A and C, they are the same. B and D, they are the same. But once they are worded differently, you present to people, people tend to develop some kind of a different preference based on the wording. So the authors or the scholars, they came up with, this is how our brain react to, positively worded or positively perceived information and negatively perceived information. So when we see positive worded scenario, we tend to be safe, right? We tend to save people, right? 200 people will be saved. So that's very positive. But if we are presented with something that is negatively worded or have negative consequences, then we tend to pick risky options because we feel like it's already pretty bad, right? There's not much to lose. Let's just gamble a little bit and then see if we can save everyone. You can use this theory or this thing in any, in many different scenarios, including like stocks, right? If you buy stocks, and you can analyze people's behaviors when they see stocks going down or stocks going up. So you can utilize this theory in many different fields. But again, our results, they are not as expected. So of course, once in a while I have classes that they are doing something like this. So, but definitely was a really close one for the second group, right? Much closer than the first group, okay? So it's very interesting. Our brain tend to attach meaning to those things, right? So when we are presented with the options, we attach, which one's better, which one's good, why we're picking this one. So we're attaching meaning to our perceptions. That's the third stage called interpretation. I apologize, took us a while to go through that. With the technology and distance learning is very difficult to get through. Perception, people perception, person perception is normal activity we do. This is not much a definition. The meaning of all messages is filtered by the receiver through the perception of the message's source. This is a very important point to know or to remember, because we all have perceptions of everything, and the message we are receiving from the source, they go through our perceptions, right? So that's why when we talk about TV channels, media channels, right? Sometimes, even though they are reporting something that is can be considered facts, but because we have perception of certain things, we don't really like what we are hearing, right? So for example, if you are supporting a certain politician, then whatever this person is saying, you tend to be positively received, right? If you don't like a certain politician or a celebrity or TV channel, then everything this person or this source is saying, sending to you, go through the perceptions, then they will be negatively received. That's why perceptions are so extremely important. Based on perception, we make attributions. We think about why they're doing this, causes, all those things. So in this article, it's called "Do Your Friends Actually Like You?" It's kind of depressing thing to read about it, but recent research indicates only about half of perceived friendships are mutual. It's not like, when you consider this person your friend, they don't really consider your friend, but the level of friendship, only 50% of them are mutual, right? That's just understandable because not everything is mutual, but we tend to think, most of our relationship or friendships, they are mutual, but in reality, they are not. That's just the perceptions. There are some basic attribution error, because of how our brain works or how we are self-centered, we tend to make some errors. The first one is we'll attribute the causes of our own behavior, particularly our bad behavior, to external sources. That means we don't really blame ourselves if we make some mistakes, right? So one example is if we are late, we don't really blame ourselves. We don't really think we have a character flaw or issue. We blame the external, the traffic, right? But if this happens to other people, if the other people are doing this, then we tend to attribute that to internal characteristics. So if other people are late, we attribute that to a lack of responsibility, right? Instead of thinking about it, maybe there are some good excuses, maybe there are some external things they don't have a control over. There are other perception biases as well, including primacy effects. So we tend to, what happened recently between you and the other person, they play exaggerating role or effects on the relationship, on the perception of this person. The primacy, that's the opposite. Recency, that's what happened recently, but primacy, basically the first impression, tend to be more important than other things happened after. Positivity bias, if you like someone, some source, you're gonna like everything, the majority of the stuff they say. Negativity bias is the opposite. If you don't dislike a person, a source, then you're gonna dislike the message. Egocentric, we're self-centered. Ethos, so if you learn public speaking, you are familiar with the ethos. Ethos is the credibility, the image of the speaker, the speaker's credibility, the total image the source projects, including your nonverbals, your appearance, smile, all those things, and also your backgrounds, your education, your skills, all those things, they will contribute to your source credibility or ethos. Messages are interpreted through the receiver's impression of the source, therefore they do that. Sponsorship effect, basically you can borrow ethos from others, like if you think about campaigns, right? So sometimes famous politicians will come to the local elections and then basically lend their ethos to the local candidates. Or when you think about products, they are sponsored by celebrities, even though they have nothing to do with the products, they have no expertise in that area, but because their expertise in sports, expertise in acting, then they tend to cross over and then have this sponsorship effect. Social credibility, a combination of believability and likability. both of them, and there are 3 dimensions, including expertise, honesty, trustworthiness, character, and then the last one, goodwill and caring. You don't have to be, you know, um, competence in every dimension. For example, if we read an article, journal article from a scientist, we tend to attribute, we can tend to attach a lot of credibility to that article, even though we don't really know this person's goodwill, caring, or trustworthiness. We feel like, this is from this journal, this person, is a PhD in this area. Therefore, we're going to trust the source. We're going to trust the message, right? But on the other hand, if people are lack of those in certain areas, will damage their credibility, right? So I want to use politicians, right? Politicians, people tend to dislike politicians because they feel like they don't really have the character or the trustworthiness. They don't really have goodwill towards people. Therefore, even though they might have a lot of expertise in politics or governing or in business, but because we don't really trust them, therefore we don't really feel like they have the credibility. So one thing can damage the other ones, or one thing can help the overall the credibility. So those that a list of people who were considered top 10 most influential people last year or the year before. I don't have the new list. So usually people who are in power, they are voted as the most influential, powerful people. So this is not this year's list. So if this year's list, we're going to have President Biden probably on the list, and other people as well. So when you analyze their credibility, you can go back and look at those 3 areas. So for example, expertise, right? So we can see a lot of them, they have expertise. Politicians, they have expertise in politics, government, and business leaders, they have expertise in business, and a religious leader, expertise in religions, in, doctrines, scripture, those things, right? Then going back to the second one, trustworthiness, then now you're going to have people having different opinions, right? So especially towards politicians, if you really trust them, then they have this credibility in trustworthiness. If you don't really trust them, if you don't like them, then they don't have that, right? But most people seems like when it comes to goodwill, caring, or trustworthiness, they tend to believe that religious leaders, they have a little bit more than other people, right? And then also people who are doing a lot of charity works, such as the Bill Gates donating a lot of money to a lot of organizations try to solve problems like poverty, water issue, education. Then we tend to have, generally speaking, we tend to have award those people with more trustworthiness points or goodwill or caring points. But they are on the top 10 list, most influential. They have something, right? So some of the areas they have the competence, the credibility. So moving on to look at media. Again, this can be very much, depends on people's opinions, right? Especially when it comes to political news, then you're gonna have people who are considered more conservative. They're gonna probably trust conservative media outlets more than other channels. then if people who are more progressive or liberal, then they're gonna find other outlets more trustworthy, or more have more credibility, right? So maybe some of the things we can all agree, maybe weather channels, maybe sports channels, maybe they are less polarized compared to news channels or news outlets. Here's a really funny video you can watch, right? So again, you can find this link in Blackboard. So this is a really interesting video, very entertaining, but also a good message. So basically seeing that, within this message, kind of reveals that how we speak can contribute to people's perception of our credibility. Okay, so somebody shared a new list, right? Jacob, thank you. So if people want to find out the new updated list, please do that. So, but coming back to this video, this is a very short video, probably 5 minutes, 6 minutes long. But within this video, so you're gonna receive this message about how a message is delivered, the way you speak will affect how other people perceive your credibility and the message's credibility. So in the end, the speaker basically asks the audience, the viewers, to speak with confidence, to use your confidence to increase your credibility. A second additional source is article. So should you change your name to get a job, right? Most of you, or probably all of you, you don't really have this problem. You don't have a problem with a name gets in the way of getting a job. So in this article, they use an example of a person who was born in Singapore. Singapore, if you know something about Singapore, most people there, they are of Chinese descendants, so they have a Chinese heritage. So this person, his father is ethnic Chinese. His mother is a local ethnic group. I don't remember which group, but it's not Chinese. So he's half Chinese, half another ethnic group. So he doesn't really look 100% Chinese. At least to Chinese, he doesn't look as authentic as people who are from China. So he had a problem getting a job working for Chinese companies because there are a lot of Chinese companies doing business with Singapore. So he had difficulties finding a job because he doesn't look like Chinese, right? So his face, his looks was the problem, right? Even though he could speak perfect Chinese, but doesn't matter, right? Later he immigrated into to another country, I think Australia or New Zealand. I think Australia. Then his name became a problem because he has a Chinese name, a traditional Chinese name, not a Western name, an English name. So he couldn't find a job interview opportunities, right? Because people look at his resume and they just assume he doesn't speak good English, right? Or not familiar with the culture, the country, everything. So he couldn't get a job opportunities, interview opportunities. So later he changed his name to something that is more westernized, and then he got a job. So it's just very extreme example showing that even your name will contribute to other people's perceptions of your credibility. There was another experiment asking participants to read an article, right? on the bottom of the article or on the top of the article, they basically made up some names as the authors, right? They made some names who sounds like, ethnic group or more like certain racial backgrounds. Then ask those people to rank the how much they trust the message in the article. So that manipulation lead to different results, showing that even the little as people's name can have some impact on people's perception of the source and the message. And then they manipulated the source, like which university is this author associated with, right? So maybe put some big names like Harvard University and maybe some local universities, then see how people trust the messages, and then that lead to different results. So as far as the social credibility, there's a theory. I don't want to spend too much on this because this is not from the book, but in communication studies, we have this theory called the elaboration likelihood model theory. So this theory, maybe it's from psychology, I'm not sure. So basically, seeing that when our brain make decisions, we tend to make decisions through two routes. Route one, basically you go through this more elaboration, you think about it, you compare, you look at pros and cons, you look at different results, and then you make a decision, right? So like which university you want to go to, you have this really informed decision. And then you have a second route, basically you just make decision based on some superficial stuff, right? You have seen this brand on TV, therefore I'm going to pick up this product, right? You don't really think about it, you don't really elaborate too much, right? So when you are using the second one called peripheral route, then some superficial stuff like people's names, people's looks, people's education backgrounds, all those things become more important, even more important than the message itself. The next thing we're going to talk about is called interpersonal attraction. This is just a small thing to include here. So interpersonal attraction, the desire to be with rather than avoid another person. So you have three different dimensions or three different types. You have physical attraction, which is more important at the beginning of the interaction. Then you have a social attraction, and then you have the task attraction. So social attraction, basically you would like to spend some time outside of work with this person, right? So like, in case study number one, those people would like to go to a bar after Friday's work. So those are colleagues, because they have the social attraction, that means they have a good relationship, right? They would like to spend time outside of work with each other. Task attraction, usually, people, you would like to be on the project with this person because this person is a good worker, has knowledge, has skills. Homophily, so those are things, basically they are similarities. They can be objective similarities, like where you're from, right? Those are objective, or perceived similarities, right? Some kind of beliefs, values, things that you feel like you're similar. So why this is important? The more similar two people are, the more likely they are to attempt to communicate with each other, and they are more likely to be more successful, the attempts. So demographic, including your biological features, social status, ethnicity, background, including past education, experiences, choices you made, where to work, all those things, where you were raised, and the attitudes you have, beliefs, values, religion, politics, orientations. Think about your friends, right? Especially your best friends. Usually you share some of similarities from those three dimensions. The last thing is called a optimum homophily. Basically, people who are very similar to you, but they know more. So that means they are more knowledgeable than you, but they are also similar. You see a lot of similarities. Those people, they tend to be role models, mentors. You tend to have respect for them. And they are seen as credible, attractive, and homophilies. Then they have this high ethos or the credibility, and they tend to receive more power because the high ethos they are having. Okay, so that's chapter 8. Okay, let me see who's here, and then we are done with our session. Okay, just give me a second. Almost done. Okay, so we're done today. Have a good week, and just remember to turn in your case study number 2. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, have a good week.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.